Hi guys. I feel like it's been 7 million years. It has been like way over a month, and I'm sorry. Hi, good to see you. I also am streaming this on Twitch where it's been way over like 8 months or maybe a year. I don't know. Hi Diane. Hi Ian. Hi Honeypot. Hi Mr. G. Hi Chris. So I'm basically streaming this both on both, I guess, like on TikTok, on Twitch, on YouTube, literally everywhere. Hi, Karen. Um, Hi, Armin. Oh my gosh, hello. I've missed your quotes. I'm officially back to Kyiv. There have been air raid alerts every goddamn night. Hi, Cameron. Oh, Ireland, nice. There have been air raid alerts like every goddamn night. Hi, Dan. Hi. Oh, Robbie. Oh my God. Hello. Hi, Joe. Hi, Drew. It's actually really good to see Robbie on this stream. Um, because actually, Rob, do you want to join? I'll send you a link to join because Rob has a lot to say in terms of who he thinks will win. He actually sent me, hi, Poland. He actually sent me like an entire I don't even know what to call it, but a research filled long as hell um it- not document but manifesto of like I believe it was 8 points of why he thinks Kamala will win. So if anyone is interested and Robbie feels like it, I can bring him up. He's way more. Yeah, hi Jeremy. He's hi Pietro, hi Drew. Literally hi everybody. It's so good to see you. He obviously knows a lot more about the election because he's been keeping up with it a lot more than I have in the past. Well, I mean, I have been keeping up with the election, but Robbie, like literally, he makes it his business to know absolutely everything, and he knows things that I don't know. I messaged him today because I was just like, hey, please give me a reasoning on why you think whoever you think will win, because I'm obviously sitting here in Ukraine, absolutely freaking out what's going to happen. I've been refreshing the stupid map 270 to win for like hours now, and I know that it's not going to tell me anything different because none of the polls are closed. But I'm just over here like, didn't. This election is super important for me for on both ends, I guess, because I'm both, very interested in the election because of the fact that I've lived in the US for 13, now 14 years, but I guess I've been out for 10 months, so 13 years. And because, of course, I'm in Ukraine. And even the life was a little better. Cheers. Oh, hi Dash. Hi Dashall. Oh my gosh, good to see you. So as I said, I'm streaming this on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch. So there are some people that used to come to Twitch streams, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's been a while. Listen, Dashall, I haven't been streaming on YouTube for about a month and a half. I was in New York for a month, and I keep saying this, but it was supposed to be like a very easy sort of like trip. I was supposed to work and record my stuff for UATV and the gays. And it was supposed to be super like, a breezy little thing. And thank you, Dan. And it was supposed to be, I was supposed to have time for everything. I was supposed to be able to like catch up with everything that's happening in New York. I was supposed to clean up my apartment. It was supposed to be happy-go-lucky magical. I went to the sidelines of Ukraine Action Summit, and I was supposed to be in DC for like a day. I was there for 5 days. Then I came back to New York. I was sick as a dog for like 3 days and barely was able to get out of bed. Then I went to Canada. And then I came back from Canada, and then the person that I went to the summit in DC with came back for 2 days, and my aunt flew in, Anastasia, if you remember her. And so it was just basically like a very long it was a great trip. Like a lot was accomplished during this trip, but I was just sort of so it was like go, 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 go all the time. And it didn't feel like I had any time to like kind of sit down and relax. Did you meet Grumpy? No, I didn't meet Grumpy because he's in Newfoundland and that's super far away. I actually didn't get to meet a lot of people that I was hoping to meet while I was in near Toronto. I'm hoping to go another time again, and I hope that I'll have a little more time to sort of like say hello and do something. It was I was kind of scared, to be honest, like traveling outside of Ukraine. I think that and I mean, it's not, so here's the thing. Part of me feels very silly because I don't think I'm big enough fish for Russia to fry. But at the same time, during the time that I was traveling, Russian officials were basically saying that they're going to start targeting pro-Ukrainian Western influencers. And I mean, yes, I am Ukrainian, but I know what they mean by that, and that's like people who speak about Ukrainian English. And then, unfortunately, the host of the Telegraph died, and it was just like odd timing and everything. And it was kind of like I don't know. I was a little on edge traveling because I know that in Ukraine, I'm usually at home at work, and I don't necessarily. I don't know. It feels oddly. It feels like if Russia wanted to get me, it would not be anywhere in Ukraine. And someone says Kamala 2024, and I wholeheartedly support that. There was someone who said Trump 2024, and I just want to say this is a very wrong chat room for that, or it's a very wrong YouTube channel for that. We definitely, in majority, support Kamala here. I did send Robbie a link. I don't know where Robbie is. You don't need to download the StreamYards app. Like, you can for a better experience, but you can just go on through the browser. It's really not, you really don't have to download anything. Come to America. Well, I've lived in America for 13 years, and I still am, like, I don't necessarily not live. I mean, I don't physically live in America, but I still do. It's a weird concept. Hi, Hooves. Well, so interestingly, I was freaking out about Kamala and whether she's going to win. But then I've been seeing a lot of polls lately that kind of indicate that she might win, and she might win in a landslide. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the Seltzer poll, but or her map, and it legitimately, well, she's usually one of the most accurate pollsters, right? And this map has been going viral, but her map legitimately shows Kamala 410 to 120 or something like that for Trump, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know if I'm, I don't know if I am that optimistic, but I do think that Kamala's going to win, at least because, first of all, Trump's admin is freaking out, and they're already looking at ways to not certify the election. And they wouldn't be doing that if they were confident in winning, if their internal polling wasn't showing them that they're screwed. Also, I found it very interesting. It was an opinion piece. Robbie sort of sent it. Well, not sort of, but Robbie sent it to me, and it was basically like, how previous years, we've all been hearing sort of that, like, oh, Dems got it, and it was like in 2016, Dems got it, and then in 2020, everyone was saying that Dems got it, right? And like, so the numbers were very close, and in 2016. And then in 2016, obviously Trump won. And I think this time all the media has an opposite strategy where they're like acting as if Trump has got it. So maybe Republicans stay home and don't vote. I don't know. I mean, it would actually be kind of funny if that was included in the strategy. Also, Robbie says that he's almost done downloading the app, so he's going to join. Drew says, I think Roe v. Wade was the coffin in Trump's chances in 2024. I think it was a lot of things that weren't just that. Also, there are a lot of okay, there is someone who came in here and says, if you think Trump ain't going to win, go have a look at his rallies. Now it's nuts. Kamala has to get celebrities for that. Well, first of all, Trump had to get Elon Musk and like Tucker Carlson and people like rallying for him on the internet. So don't pretend like both people don't do that. Second of all, Kamala didn't get celebrities. They endorsed her because no one wants Trump as president, no one who's like thinking clear. And third, yeah, I've seen Trump's rallies where he said that no seats are ever empty at his rallies. And then the cameraman really checked him on that and showed that half the stadium was empty. So yeah, I have seen Trump's rallies. I don't know, have you? It doesn't seem like you have. Also, interestingly, Trump supporters are leaving his rallies earlier, and literally the video that I had on my For You page on TikTok before I started live streaming was a video that was showing me that was showing me what's his face, like Trump supporters being asked why they're leaving early, and them saying that they've heard of this all before and it's boring. So that's fun. Okay, so we have Robbie here.
Hi guys.
Actually, Robert Godet, who is incredibly qualified to speak on this because well, Robbie, why don't you introduce yourself for the people that don't know you?
Hi everyone. I'm Rob Godet. I'm a political junkie in a former life, and in my current life. I've been following this very closely since it does impact Ukraine very. It's an existential election for Ukraine and for the United States, and Yulia and I used to run a podcast, which hopefully one day we can get back up and running somehow or something. But there's been a lot going on. But yeah, that's the
lowdown.
The lowdown. Thank you. I'm very tired. I did not sleep well last night.
I feel you. Okay, Robbie. So who do you think is going to win and why?
So I think Kamala Harris is going to win. I think so. Let me start out by saying the polls that are showing these like super tight, like tied, plus 0.5 plus 0.4 for either candidate in each state. I think there's a lot of evidence that they are hurting. Like herding sheep. So polls have underestimated Trump historically. 2016 and 2020, the polls were off. Now, not that much off leading up to election day, especially the week before the election, but they weren't accurate. Like the aggregators were wrong, and in 2016 as far as who was going to win. And they were wrong in 2020 as far as Trump's margins. A lot of them had Biden up, 7-8 points. And as we know, he only won by a couple 100,000 votes in those swing states. So what a lot of the pollsters did is they adjusted who they thought they're modeling the electorate. When they conduct these polls, who do they think is going to show up? That's number one. And then who are they going to vote for? And you can weigh your polling. You get the raw data, and then you weigh who do you think is going to show up based on that sample. And a lot of them, I think, have been skewing towards Trump to avoid the misses that happened in 2016 and 2020 when the polls underestimated Trump. I'm not using Alan Lichtman style historical analysis. I think those 13 keys, I think he just is not accurate. I mean, he's gotten lucky, but it doesn't make him right. What I did, because I suspected the polls may be hurting, meaning no poll wants to be an outlier. No one wants to publish an outlier result. They want to show a close race because that's what happened in 2016 and 2020. And they overcorrected, perhaps, and I think we saw a little bit of this in 2022, where there was this big red wave that was supposed to happen, and Democrats ended up winning They didn't win. They actually lost the popular vote, but just by if Kathy Hochul in New York, the governor, if the New York Democrats weren't so incompetent, they would have retained the House. And Nancy Pelosi has said as much. What I did is I looked for non-polling indicators. So I looked at data that we have that is known to be predictive. And there are a couple of things. One is special elections. The special elections leading up to 2018, 2020, 2022, and now 2024 has not happened yet. But the special elections leading up to those general elections were predictive of the outcome, is what I should say. So Democrats were overperforming based on the polling in 2022 in special elections, especially after the Dobbs decision was handed down, which allowed states to ban abortion.
Oh no! What happened? Okay, Robbie, come back. Hello.
Hello, sorry.
Mm.
This year, in the 2023-2024 cycle, Democrats have actually exceeded their overperformance from 2022. So if you look at all the special elections for state house, for state senate, for state the House of Representatives, Democrats are doing better than they otherwise would based on the polling. So that's one hard data point.
So okay, let me ask you some questions. So isn't there this situation where usually the only people that, well, not the only, but in majority the people who vote early are Republican, and this year a lot of early voters are Democrats, which means that a lot more people are showing up to vote than prior?
I'm sorry, so say that one more time.
So usually when we see like the numbers for early voting, right, like voting by mail and all of this stuff, it's usually Republicans, right, that vote by mail, and then Democrats vote on the election day, or?
So in 2020, it was vice versa.
Okay.
Because Trump's conspiracy theories about, the mail, they're going to steal the election, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah. And Democrats in 2020 were more afraid of COVID. So they didn't want to go to a polling station. So you ended up with a lot of mail-in ballots that skewed heavily Democratic. And then in-person day voting was heavily Republican.
Okay.
So you're seeing something different this year. Trump has actually said, go and early vote, send in your mail-in ballot. And so you're seeing a lot of registered Republicans going and doing that at a higher rate than Democrats. The theory is, and I think there's some truth to it, there's only so many voters that are going to vote. And those voters that were going to vote on election day, maybe in 2020, they've shifted and they've gone to now voting early in person or by mail. So you see by party registration, and again, we don't know how these people actually voted. They're registered Republicans. There could be some crossover, like disaffected Nikki Haley voters. So you really can't read too much into the early voting data. But what I think we can expect to see this year is that the mail will look more red than normal, or than 2020, I should say. And the election day will look bluer than it did in 2020. So a lot of people are reverting back to what they did in 2016, before the pandemic, essentially.
So right now I'm looking at the map, and it has 237 for Democrats and 195 for Republicans, which is kind of crazy to begin with, I think.
For the Electoral College, are you on?
Yeah. 237 versus 195. I'm on 270 to win.
Oh, 270 to win. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I refreshed endlessly in 2016 and it was really bad, and at some point I realized that it's just not going to get better, and I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning to a Trump presidency, and I kept trying to wake up, and then
Yeah.
I realized that I'm not waking up. This is reality.
Yes, and our entire, like, my life was not, like, ever since Trump came down that golden escalator, like, he has just consumed so much of our energy and time, and I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. I just want him to go away. That's my personal bias, but I try to take that out when I look at this and see who's going to win. Um, One other thing that's really interesting in Washington state. So again, getting away from the polls, but looking at the actual data where people have voted. Um, in Washington state, they have a jungle primary. And it just so happens that in the non-urban areas of Washington state, so we're talking the eastern part of the state, the composition of the electorate is very similar to Pennsylvania and Michigan. Um,
Mm.
and they have a top what's called a jungle primary. So whoever, it could be two Democrats that advance to the, if there are four candidates, two Democrats, two Republicans, there could be two Democrats that advance to the general election. There could be one Democrat, one Republican. That's usually what happens, and that's what happened this year. That's actually also been highly predictive of what the national environment is going to look like. It's also been predictive of what's going to happen in those two specific states because the demographics are very, very similar. So that showed a, a, a much more blue-leaning electorate than 2022 by about
Mhm.
5 points. So there's one actual concrete data point that we have that shows maybe the polls are underestimating. Maybe it's not this tie. Maybe their Democrats have some sort of advantage.
Oh, so there
Um,
is this very interesting comment from Armin, right? And it says, I think we may find that many more Republicans voted against their party than anyone expected. I think a lot of people, especially in Pennsylvania and door to door polling, were basically saying that they're scared of their neighbors, but they're going to vote Democratic. Also, a lot of women are scared to say they're going to vote Kamala because of their husbands. And it's crazy because I'm sure that everyone has seen this, but basically, there was an ad saying it's okay to vote a different way than your husband does, right? And it was like an ad for Kamala, and then Republicans took this ad and they were like, "Oh, what is she lying about if she's voting for Kamala, not for Trump?" and all of this stuff, basically affirming why women are scared of their husbands and why they're scared of voting the way they actually want to vote, because for a lot of women, this election is not like about Republicans or Democrats. It's about having access to healthcare. You know, in all of the states that Trump that are MAGA states, really, that are red states that have like MAGA officials in at the helm, the women are dying. Women are literally
mhm.
dying in the parking lots of hospitals because doctors are scared to perform medically necessary abortions. They're scared of prescribing them medication because it's not even so. The issue with like this abortion situation, right? It's not just the abortion itself. Like a lot of women that are pregnant that have pre-existing or underlying conditions will not get medication they need because that medication might result in a miscarriage as one of the like side effects. Let's say there is like a 5% chance of that. They will not be prescribed that medication, and that medication might be life-saving for a different condition they have.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's like women are scared. Women don't
Yep.
want that. It's terrifying.
Yep. Yep. And it goes beyond that. So yeah, someone in the comments, Cheryl said the last minute Comey email surprise wasn't picked up in the polls. She was winning up until then. I think that's
Mhm.
a really good point, where we saw at that last week, where we saw the polls moving in the wrong direction in terms of if you wanted Hillary to win. So
Yeah.
that is another really good point. Some of that is happening this year. Look at,
It's
yeah, go ahead,
also
go ahead.
The bias here in TikTok says veterans dropped from 80% Republican to 60%. If this is a trend for all Republicans, it is a landslide for Democrats.
Yes, yes, we're seeing a lot of that, and the Latino vote has been very heavily contested. And in 2020, everyone was talking, "Oh, Blue Texas, it's coming, because Latinos have historically been a democratic voting bloc. Not all Florida Cubans, quintessential example of just hardcore Republicans.
Yeah.
But Puerto Ricans were, Trump curious, especially Puerto Rican men. And then
Trump curious.
then they were leading in that direction.
Trump curious. Sweetheart, we're not talking about LGBTQIA.
I call them, the Trump, they just want to dip their toe in the Trump water and see how it feels. So anyways, the last week of
island of garbage,
Yes, and that broke, there have been so many scandals. There's something about Trump saying something and then someone else saying it that makes a difference. And this comedian that went on stage and said that, it took off in the Puerto Rican community. There was a rally yesterday in San Juan where it was it was the largest political rally in the United States, because Puerto Rico is part of the United States, by the way. And a lot of them live in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Also, a lot of Puerto Ricans live in my neighborhood in New York.
This is true. Yes, New York City has a very large Puerto Rican population, and a lot in Connecticut too. A critical House district, Connecticut's fifth.
There's an interesting thing. So there's 215 confirmed electoral votes for Kamala already, right, from the states that already we know what's going to happen there, and only 22 are still just leaning, but not but could go another way. For Trump, we have 98 confirmed and 97 leaning. So that could change at any moment, which is kind of wild because honestly, since 2016, I have not looked at the map that was giving me as much hope as this one does.
Yeah. We have Colorado, Virginia, those used to be swing states. Iowa now. Let's talk about can we talk about Iowa?
Yeah, Iowa apparently might actually turn blue, which is wild.
Ann Seltzer. So for all the polls and
for Ann Seltzer, Texas looks blue.
Not necessarily. She didn't. So here, yes and no. So Ann Seltzer specializes in Iowa, and she is the harbinger of doom in 2016 and 2020, where the polls were showing Hillary's ahead, and then all of a sudden she comes out with her last poll. It's always the Saturday before the election, and she says, wait, Trump's actually up 7, and then Trump wins by 8 in that state. This year she has Harris. This is a Trump 7 state, winning Iowa by 3 points, 47 to 44, because RFK Jr. is on the ballot. The Libertarian candidate, Chase Oliver's on the ballot. Kremlin print.
I'm sorry, I looked at this. So Dr. Inna, she's from California, and she posted her ballot, which in California is legal to take a picture of your ballot and who you're voting for. And I didn't even realize how many random people were on this freaking ballot, because it was Donald J. Trump, random person, Jill Stein, a random person, RFK Jr., random person, Kamala Harris, random person.
Oh yeah, I think there were 5 on mine. I was I don't even know who this. Yeah.
Why are they even trying, to be honest? But anyways,
it's a protest vote, and I also think. I think we have confirmation Jill Stein is a Kremlin operation. Let's just
sure.
Say. I mean, she's sitting at the table with Putin, with Mike Flynn. Yeah. She's her job is to peel off Democratic voters. That is what her job is.
Like, I'm sorry that we're sort of like leaning away from the election for 1 second, but have you seen Scholz, who came out and said that Ukraine should be neutral?
I did. And, I hope maybe if Kamala wins, maybe we appoint Liz Cheney as the ambassador to Germany because she knows how to deal with uh,
Well, I
weak
think
people.
Scholz in general is just like has always very much been a very Russian, uh, like it's kind of like it's like in his heart and soul, but he
Hmm.
couldn't do that because his job wasn't allowing him to, and now he probably thinks Trump is gonna win, so he is just kind of like finally letting these feelings out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh,
And he's been vociferously opposed to Ukraine getting invitations to NATO.
oh
Um,
yeah, and Taurus missiles because
Taurus
there's not gonna
missiles.
be any German missiles landing in the Russian territory. Like, okay, bro.
Yeah, he is, and he is going to lose the next election. I based on public opinion polling and regional voting results, where the AFD, like literal, we don't call them national socialists or Nazis, but they're pretty close to it. Um, so I think there's a chance for the Christian Democrats, which is Angela Merkel's party, to take control there. But we'll see. Germany's always, they're so Russophilic. They're so Russophilic.
Angela Merkel also is, I know Germans love her, and I know all of the Germans in this chat might be very mad at me, except for Veronica. But like Angela Merkel is literally the reason why Germany was not invited to. I mean, Ukraine was not invited to the EU or NATO, and she literally, quite literally, promised Putin that we wouldn't be invited to EU or NATO. She's also the one who quite literally helped Putin with all of the pipelines and all this stuff. And yeah, she also went to a school in St. Petersburg. She's
And was born in West Germany, but her parents decided, I want to live in East Germany.
also, she, for some reason, there was this like occasion a little while ago at a dinner party where Putin very publicly, like, not slapped her on the ass, but like tapped her, which signifies a very close relationship. And that's just kind of like, just no. Why?
Yeah.
Why is
It,
this a thing?
I think the current Polish Minister of Defense, it could be defense. At the time, he was foreign affairs, and he told Sergei Plokhy that Putin said, if you invite, because this was 2008,
Mhm.
Ukraine had just, sorry, Russia had just invaded Georgia,
Georgia.
and George W. Bush wanted to give a membership action plan, basically for NATO membership to Georgia and to Ukraine. And
Mhm.
Putin threatened Angela Merkel with nuclear weapons, shock,
Mhm.
and she blocked it along with the corrupt French president Nicolas Sarkozy.
Nicolas
So,
Sarkozy.
um, yeah, she's, and then her silence has been deafening, by the
Little
way.
known fact, Nicolas Sarkozy's brother was married to Mary-Kate Olsen for like a second. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Olivier Sarkozy, and their wedding was in a church in New York where they had ashtrays full of cigarettes. That marriage
That is
lasted about 2
that is
years.
beautiful and so French.
Why is Robbie always dropping off at the best moments? Yeah, I mean, that was a very stupid comment that no one needed, but I just thought it was funny to mention because I don't think anyone ever knows that Mary Kate Olsen was married to former French president's brother, and it just I mean, it's a very random, strange pairing. While Robbie figures out how to get back here, I'm going to I'm going to read some of the comments. First of all, the next CDU Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, is very different from Merkel on the issue of Eastern European policy. He's much more radical. Secondly, calling the CDU party Merkel's party is completely wrong. They have changed their rhetoric very much now. Thirdly, the chance that the AfD will get into the next German government is very small, but they could become a very big opposition party. I mean, listen, I'm not going to argue with you on that because I know a fair bit about German politics, but not nearly as like in depth as you do. Um, Veronica, Veronica probably can discuss this with you, Dashal, because she's German. But I mean, I don't think Robbie meant like Angela Merkel's party, as in like, they're corrupted by Angela Merkel. I mean, it's just for people to understand which party it is, or like, who was in that party. Because a lot of people here, especially from America, have no clue about German politics, understandably. Also, if Baerbock will put her name on the ballot, I will vote for her again. I love Annalena Baerbock. I'm a fangirl for that woman. She's like, she has more balls than anyone else in the German government currently. And I absolutely love that girl, woman, lady, fantastic person. Did Waltz turn the farmers in Idaho? I think that's for you, Robbie.
No, I don't think so. Idaho is extremely red. I do think picking Walz was a good balance to Kamala's. She's West Coast. Sorry, she's coastal. And she's from California, and I think he was a good pick for the play for the blue wall. And he can talk to people who live in not only the swing states, but Iowa, Nebraska too. Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. That is a swing district, or it was. It's probably going to go Harris quite strongly this time. And Kansas as well. Interestingly, there was a poll in Kansas that's also really accurate. These very like small niche polls that focus on like one state and they do it really well. And that's all they do. Found Trump winning Kansas by only 4 points. 4 points. He won the state by like 20. So this will be a very interesting election to see how
right
these
now,
little points of data play out.
Right now on 270 to win, Kansas is already calculated as Trump.
Yeah, they have it as like a hard red, and it's funny, they have a Democratic governor. They're not that of a deep red state, except on the federal level. But locally, the Democrats have a pretty strong bench.
Wait, JJH, my state is a swing state as well. What is your state? I would have preferred Mark Kelly, but at least we have him in the Senate. Yeah, I mean, I like Mark Kelly a lot, especially I love Mark Kelly in Ukraine, but I think that he's not... I think that when they were thinking of who to put in front of JD Vance to shut him up, Mark Kelly is a bit more of a timid person in a way. So I don't think he would be nearly as spicy as Tim Walz was. So it's probably that.
He's amazing. Even on like his wife is Gabby Giffords, who was a politician who was shot. He's a former astronaut.
Well, I mean, he ran for Senate because of her, because she couldn't do her job anymore, but she could do it through him, and they could do it together, and basically that's why he ran. And he's also an Austrian. He's like he's an all-American sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm so excited. But one reason they didn't pick him is the Senate is tied. You can't take him out of the Senate. And to your point, Yulia, but he is fantastic, and he has staying power in Arizona. So I saw someone is Wisconsin.
Chrissy UK says, check out Kremlin update on Greg Terry experience. Russia says ever wins, they will not stop the war. 100% trusted source. Sorry, I'm not quite understanding what you mean. Russia said that they are not stopping the war no matter who wins, whether it's Trump or Kamala, but also like that, yeah, like Russia is not planning on stopping the war. Trump has no power of stopping the war in Ukraine the way that he says he does. And Russia is not going to like bow down to anyone really. So we have to stop them by letting Ukraine strike back, by giving Ukraine weapons that Ukraine needs. Um, but also, like, here's the thing.
100%.
So as a Ukrainian person, I highly appreciate people giving me sources, like giving me sources on like, oh, this is 100% accurate source or that is 100% accurate source. But when it comes to interpreting what the Kremlin says and what the Kremlin does, the most accurate sources are Ukrainian because Western people, I know who Greg is. I know who Greg Terry is. I know Greg Terry personally. We've had many conversations on UATV and on the gays on my segment that's called The Red Lines. Yeah, GAZE. I know. I used to say it every time I would sign off. I'd be like, please don't forget to follow the gays. GAZE. I know, I know. Not a great name.
No,
but it
I
is.
love it.
I also used to say, well, I mean, you can also follow the gays if you'd like. You know, GAY, GAYS. But yeah, Greg translated Medvedev's statements. I mean, yeah, I am very much. I don't need translating Medvedev's statements because I can, you know, I understand what he says, provided that I speak, well, unfortunately, I understand his language. I also speak fluent Ukrainian, but I do know Greg Terry very well. Whatever Medvedev says is technically not authorized by the Russian government, but it really is. And whatever Russia says, it really doesn't matter because, like, they weren't planning on stopping the war in Ukraine, no matter what. No matter whether it's Kamala, no matter whether it's Trump, here's the thing: like, you really don't need a Western interpretation of Russia's intentions. Like, if you want to know what Russia's intentions are, listen to Ukrainians because we're usually the most accurate on that. And I don't mean that with like, you know, with a, I mean that without any drop of sort of selfishness or self-absorption or anything like that. It's just that I feel like, and I don't feel like I see it in the past 2.5 years, especially any Western analysts, experts, journalists, whoever, they very often misinterpret Russia because they try to see kind of better in Russia because it's hard to believe that something can be like this bad and this evil, while we have been dealing with it for a very long time and we sort of like don't have rose-colored glasses on when we think about it. So it's like, for me, it's not news that Russia wasn't going to stop no matter who is president. Yes, Trump is totally better for Russia for sure, and he's better for Russia. And we can see. So here's the thing: I do want to say this because I feel like there are a lot of people who are very mixed on Trump and Russia. Russian trolls and Russian bot farms. Let's say Trump wasn't aware of this and Trump and Putin do not have a happy-go-lucky, lovey-dovey relationship. Let's say it's one-sided and Putin is the only one who is like, you know, who thinks that he wants Trump in power because it's going to be easier for him, right? Putin has invested millions and millions and millions and billions actually of dollars into bot farms, into promoting Trump, into Elon Musk, into all of this crap. You think he would be doing that if he thought that Trump in power is somehow a threat to him? He would not be. Putin is putting money into making sure that he advertises Trump and that he helps him win. Yes. Why on earth would he be doing that? Because he knows that if Trump is in power, it's easier for him to do whatever the hell it is that he wants to do within the world. And when I tell you, as someone who has gone through a similar situation in Ukraine, that Trump and Yanukovych, the ousted in 2014 president, are pretty much literally the same character, I mean it. But yeah.
Was Yanukovych as like bombastic and just kind of crazy as Trump?
Well, he didn't get there because he just didn't have enough time, and also his ego wasn't hurt by like not being reelected the second time. I mean, he didn't really have, the choice. But yeah, he was kind of like a goon who didn't know how to speak. Honestly, like it's interesting because I used to not understand why I have such a visceral reaction to Donald Trump in general, even before he ran for president. Like, I could not understand why my reaction to his voice and to his speech is so visceral. Anytime I like see him anywhere, hear him in interviews, see him on TV, I couldn't get it. And then I think like a couple of months into the invasion, me and Tommy, the dude from TikTok, were watching Ukraine on Fire, which is like a Russian propaganda documentary about Maidan. And the director interviewed Yanukovych, and I heard his voice for the first time since 2014, and I realized that his manner of speech and his mannerisms and his voice and the way that he speaks sounds exactly like Trump, just in Russian.
That is fascinating.
And I
Wow.
immediately kind of like I was like, oh man, this is so bad. I like just remembered it, and it literally sent shivers down my spine again. My mom gets so mad anytime she hears his voice. I get mad anytime I hear Trump or Yanukovych. I mean, I mostly hear Trump these days, but it's almost like hearing Yanukovych speak English if he spoke English.
Yeah, with a little slurring, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, maybe you. So I need to use the bathroom. So maybe you answer some questions, or I'm sure you have a lot more to add into why. So if you just got here, me and Robbie are discussing why Kamala is gonna be. Why Kamala is gonna win. Why Kamala is gonna win.
Kamala will win. No.
Will win.
So will win. So one other thing that I was looking at is just another data point. When Ann Seltzer polled Iowa, she found that this is quite striking. Older white women, even those who have not obtained a college degree, are angry. They are angry, and we're talking 65 plus. These people, this demographic, votes more than the same demographic in men. And because women live longer than men, there are more of them. So they are a very reliable voting bloc. And in Iowa, a 6-week abortion ban was put into effect by the Supreme Court in June. And these women remember what it was like before Roe, before you could have no-fault divorces, before you needed a man to get a credit card to open a bank account. And you see a huge swing towards Kamala Harris because of that, and because of the Supreme Court, which authorized Roe being overturned. I don't think the polls have quite estimated the level of women being upset at Dobbs being overturned, especially, like Yulia said earlier, in these states and that have these abortion bans. One of the things that I'll be looking for is this gender differential. Women prefer Harris by wide margins. Men prefer Trump by wide margins, but the margins for men are smaller than the margins for women that go to Harris. The other thing is when you look at the 2022 election, the midterms, there were about 60-ish competitive seats, and Democrats ended up winning about 2/3 of them. What we're seeing in I think in that election and then this election is because both parties, both messages are getting what they want, what their policies are, whether it's, mass deportation or floating islands of garbage or tariffs, versus, democracy, protecting women's rights. These are the messages are getting to the voters in these critical swing states. And what we're finding is the late breaking voters, the ones who were kind of undecided, they're going 2-1 for Kamala Harris. So the persuasion part of it and the turnout the vote part of it is working, because the Democrats know where to put their resources to counter a lot of what the Republicans are saying.
I would like to interject with the irrelevant thought, because what I thought was going to happen is happening, and people are saying hello, Cindy. So this is Maeve. Maeve is 7 months old, and she is, oh, hi Leo, and she is Cindy's little stepsister. A lot has changed in my life since I've stopped going live frequently. For instance, my friend Sonia has a bulldog called Chloe, and Chloe, they're not breeders. She decided she wanted Chloe to have puppies, and she thought she was going to have 3 or 4 of them. Chloe birthed 10. So I was convinced by Sonia that I need another bulldog. And so now Cindy has a baby sister.
She's so cute. Look at her paws. Her paws are big.
Huge. Her paws are larger than Cindy's.
Yeah. Is she fully grown?
No, but she shouldn't be like growing too much more. She's kind of smaller than Cindy right now, but she's denser. But so Cindy, as we know, is very much human-like. This is a dog. She barks at her own reflection in the mirror, and my bedroom has a massive mirror because it's a closet. She also barks at whatever is happening outside in the window. So if I close the curtains, she stops barking at the window, and she starts barking at her own reflection. And then if I manage to make her stop barking at either of these things, she snores. So so it's been a lot of sleepless nights for me. Also, please don't do that because you like to eat your own poop.
Oh, another trait that they have in common.
Yes.
One other thing I wanted to say too, just to speaking of demographics. So there's been a lot of buzz around, Black voters, especially Black men, they're reverting to Trump, and we're not seeing that in the late polling, the very high quality polling. We're just not seeing it, and there might be some erosion, but if I'm Kamala Harris and I'm picking up non-college educated white women and college educated women in the suburbs, there are just more of those votes to be had than Black men. So the trade-off there, she's targeting all these demographics. They're both going after them. Don't get me wrong, but if Kamala is winning this group by a larger margin than Joe Biden did, I think we might be in for a surprise on election night, and we might know the results possibly on election night, especially if the Democrats win North Carolina, because they count their votes very, very, very quickly, and there's a self-described Black Nazi running for governor there, and he's behind by like 20 points against the Democratic candidate who's also the attorney general. So that might actually weigh Trump down. I'm not sure. But yeah, we don't see this erosion, especially among the most loyal Democratic base, which is Black women. So we'll see how they turn out on election day. I think a lot of, because of the reversion back to 2016, 2018 voting habits, more people are voting on election day. And we saw the shenanigans that the Republicans pulled with saying that, they won, and there was this red mirage where it looks like they were in the lead, and then over days they lost it.
Also, like
I
a
think some
weird,
voters have that in mind and want to vote on election day to
but
prevent
also
that.
there's like a weird thing that I was seeing with like mail-in ballots for Georgia and for swing states where they weren't arriving on time and people weren't receiving them and they had to drive, and basically their only choice was to drive and to like, or to fly and to vote. And a lot of Americans that have moved abroad, I have heard from like a lot of creators. I've seen a lot of creators on TikTok who are flying back into America literally to vote. I know a couple of my own friends that are flying back to America to vote. It's a very interesting election.
Yeah, I think people who are engaged, they really know the stakes, and we'll see what the turnout ends up being. If it's closer to the 2020 turnout versus 2016, and with the change in the law that allows Georgia to count their votes faster, we may know the results on election night. Michigan also will count their votes much faster this time. So Nevada and Arizona will be slow. Pennsylvania will be slow. Wisconsin will also be slow. But we may know the winner on election night this time, which is like, oh my God, what a dream if that would happen.
Conti says also, hi Conti, PA will be the first indicator of this election. Losing PA removes one half the combos to win for Harris, but Trump loses 75% of the combos to win. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I like frantically keep checking this thing, and it bugs me so much when it doesn't get updated. And I know it's not going to get updated for a while because what time is it for you guys right now? It's like polls close at like 8 p.m., right? So we're not really going to see any results until 10 p.m. And so that's like 5 a.m. my time.
Yeah. Though I think the first polls close at like 6:30 in Kentucky. Maybe it's 7:30. But I mean, Kentucky, I don't think is contested. It'll be interesting to see how white voters there vote in rural areas. But and black how black voters vote in the cities. But yeah, Florida, once Florida closes, and I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
There's
Kentucky
they sent you the schedule.
Kentucky is already uncontested at 8 for Trump, and Tennessee is 11 for Kamala.
Yeah. For Kamala? Tennessee?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you looking at? Send me that link.
270 to vote. Wait, let me go.
Oh wait, you can tap on it and change the outcome.
Wait. I wasn't tapping on anything. Oh, maybe I did. Fuck. I did. But that's so stupid. Why do they let you do that?
Because they want you to like play around with the pathways and stuff.
Well,
like
I literally was like I've been to Tennessee, and it is an incredibly red state.
Yes, yeah. Tennessee is not. Tennessee, I can confidently say, is not in play. Yeah, I do think Wisconsin. I think Kamala will win Wisconsin. The thing is so you have Dane County, which is Madison, which votes at like Assad levels of. When I say Assad, I mean that like kind of like 90%, 80% for one candidate for the Democrat.
Trump just got some more. So this updated.
That looks like what I'm looking at. Yeah. That looks right.
This updated because last time I looked at it, it was 97 to 98, and now it's 97 to 122. So he took some of. What did he take? What did he take in the recent?
So you flipped. I'm not sure. I think Virginia being light blue like that is just not even remotely possible. I don't know who made this map. Like, where does this data come from? State of play. Who is putting this together?
Well, so I mean, this 270 to win is like one of the most popular maps, but so okay.
There we
Virginia,
go. Okay, this is better. Yeah.
yeah, but on CNN it's also blue.
Yeah, it's like light blue, which, I don't think it's going to be, I would be shocked if it was light blue. I think it would, personally, I would put that in the solid blue, Trump has no chance category. The interesting thing, look at New Mexico, Colorado. Those states are not Oregon. Those states are solid blue. Those should be solid blue. New Hampshire. I am from New Hampshire, and New Hampshire is not voting for Donald Trump. I can tell you that. So it's interesting. I think they're just basing it off of poll aggregation. And like I said, the polls have been I think, underestimating Harris support, and B, Republican leading pollsters, meaning they work for Republicans, put out a lot of junk polls, and those might be downweighted in the algorithm of the aggregation, but they're still put in. There is a tool called FloodWatch that looks at, okay, what happens if you take out the Republican and Democratic voting?
No one deleted any messages. If your messages are offensive, YouTube doesn't put them out and filters them. So if you wrote something shitty, then it's not me who deleted your message, it's YouTube. Yeah, go ahead, Robbie.
So some of the, I think there has been a concert, like an effort to what they call flood the zone, put a lot of pro biased polls into these aggregations, and then it will help claims if Trump loses, which I think he will, that the election was stolen, and they're going to try some shenanigans. I mean, they're already boarding up DC. So
yeah, I saw that. Did you guys see that? Oh my God! Wait, let me look this up. Actually, wait, I'm gonna look it up because that was crazy. Cindy, you're literally halfway through the barricade. Just walk through it. I put up a barricade, which is literally not even a barricade, and these dogs could not like walk past it. And Cindy just like almost moved the barricade, and literally kept standing there and like not walking through it.
Leo, if there are clothes on the floor, he won't know how to get around them.
Yeah, of course.
He'll just be like, "Oh my, I'm trapped."
Okay. All right. Wait. Let me show you. So this is Forbes, and obviously there are a lot more places to see this at, but this is quite crazy. So Washington, D.C. puts fences around Capitol and other D.C. buildings ahead of election night. So the Treasury Department, we have bicycle racks around the Capitol have signs that say police line, do not cross. Then there's fencing is installed around Lafayette Square. We have a post office being boarded up and a McDonald's. Anti-scale fencing outside Howard University. Outside.
That's where Kamala. Yeah.
Metal fencing near the White House in Washington, D.C. What other security measures are in place for the election? Law enforcement in various swing states have installed security measures to protect voting locations and officials who will count ballots in the days following the election. In Maricopa County, Arizona, a critical battleground county that was central to Trump's false claims that the election was stolen from him after Biden won Arizona in a tight race, will use snipers, drones, metal detectors, and security cameras to protect its vote tabulation center. Can we just here's the thing, like people that are pro-Trump, right? Like this is not happening because of Kamala. Like they're not scared of Democrats, right? They're scared of Republicans being pissed that their freaking czar didn't win. Like the fact that we're living at a time in which America has to take these measures because one of the candidates just will not fucking accept it if he loses is insane. And that should tell you everything you need to know about voting for said candidate.
Mm-hmm. Maricopa County, Arizona, actually, you can go on their website. I think it's the Recorder's website. You can look in live feed. You can select what you want to look at. Voting drop boxes, the tabulation center, everything related to the election is on camera, recorded for the public to see. And I think that's great. Having seen how votes are tabulated myself, it is a very secure system, but you cannot have people trying to riot and overthrow and, quote, stop the count by force.
Yeah.
At this point, the US votes are more like an IQ test. No comment.
I just I don't know. I'm freaking terrified of like whatever the hell is gonna happen when like, you know, when if Trump loses, like we all know that he's not gonna freaking accept it. We all know that there's gonna be a ton of like armed Trump supporters in DC. Like
what I worry more about less DC because we've seen that before, and we actually have a president who, you know, probably has enough mental capacity at least to know to deploy the National Guard if things get out of hand. But what I worry about is the states certifying the elections. There have been significant reforms that was passed.
Oh my God, Robbie. He keeps dropping off, but also you guys, while we wait for Robbie to come back, I'm going to show you this as like a nice little interjection to, you know, everything is going on. I came home today to this.
Can you tell me what this is, Maeve? Why did you do that, Maeve? Oh yeah? You want me to pet you? After this? Yeah? Maeve?
Robbie, you missed the funniest thing. So Maeve ate a couch pillow today.
Oh.
And I came home and saw her with like destroyed couch pillow, and I'm literally looking at her and I'm like, what did you just do? And she's like turning so I could pet her, and I'm like, dude, really? And she's just like, no, okay. Like
So relatable.
A lot of Trump supporters slowly will start backing away from him in the next few weeks after he loses. Yeah, I mean, also like the interesting thing is like, okay, sure. So like, can we like talk about this, right? So like, okay, Trump loses, like everything's rainbows and butterflies. Kamala is the first Black woman president. Everything's great. 4 years from now, JD Vance is running for president. Like, I feel like we're never gonna like live that. Like, our generation is forever gonna have these elections where we just sit there and literally want to shit ourselves. I'm sorry, because we have like a fascist wannabe, crazy, hyper masculine, toxic, insecure dude running against like a person. And I just like, because okay, Trump is probably gonna die in the next 4 years. Right, like of old age. Like, I don't mean anyone's gonna do anything to him, as in like he has to, right? Like he has to, because if he doesn't, then he's running again. And we're like in this shit show again.
Yeah, they're gonna put him out in the wheelchair. Yeah, I think he has dementia. I really do. I think he has.
I genuinely do too. But point is that like until he dies, he's running, right? So like, like, but if he does die in the next 4 years, then we're gonna have like JD Vance running, which is not better. Like, arguably more terrifying.
It is more terrifying. He's more charismatic.
Oh, hi, Grumpy. Grumpy.
I saw that.
No, he's not more charismatic. Okay, people keep saying that, but then like, have you seen him speak at like random? Sorry, have you seen him speak at like random freaking cafes and like whatnot in when he was like going, I don't know, he was like doing his campaign thing and he like walked into this cafe and he was like asking this woman what
How
like
long? How long you worked there?
yeah
Can I get a
yeah
donut? Yeah, just throw in one of those.
yeah
Throw in
yeah
those. Yeah,
yeah. And
thanks.
he sounded like he was a serial killer. Like he sounded like he was not all right. Like people say he's charismatic. I don't think he's charismatic. I think he's just not like ancient and dying on stage. Like I
Yeah.
don't think he's charismatic at all.
I think in the debate with Tim Walz, he did prove to be like a slick operator. But yeah, no, he just the interpersonal skills. But you know who's like that is Ron DeSantis, and he wins like when he stays on script.
Ron DeSantis runs in a very particular state, and Ron DeSantis appeals to a very particular demographic. I don't know. I mean, like JD Vance is scary, but I wouldn't call him. I wouldn't call him. I wouldn't call him charismatic. Okay, Maeve, what are you doing? Please don't tell me you're eating another pillow or destroying something, because I don't like those noises. Maeve, Bubba, Maeve, come here. Sorry, I'm more terrified of my baby dog making noises than I am of Donald Trump right now.
I don't think that's rational.
Also, you guys, for those of you who were saying hello, Cindy, this is Cindy. Hi, Bubba. She looks terrified. Oh yeah, I started giving Cindy attention, and now you decided that you can walk over the barricade.
So yeah, Vance is a chameleon is exactly right. Bubba. So here's what we expect on election night. So starting from 7 to 10 Eastern time. Not daylight savings, because we do this stupid thing where we make it dark at 4 o'clock. So from 7 to 10, most results from Georgia and North Carolina should be in. If those races are close, they may or may not be. They may not be called. We will get partial results from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And we will have near complete results from Virginia, Florida, Ohio, and Colorado. I'm very interested in seeing how Florida votes, because there is an abortion referendum. There are a lot of retirees in Florida, very similar to how the situation with abortion unfolded in Iowa.
Breaking news: Russia tried blowing up a plane.
Yes. Did you? Yeah. So this is like when you were talking about, Russia won't stop the war. They tried to pack the Wall Street Journal confirmed this today. They tried to pack a plane, passenger or cargo. There are 100 people on it, 200, 300, or just a cargo plane, with pilots, with explosives. And they were bound for the United States. Russia is at war with the United States, whether the United States wants to acknowledge it or not. They've been conducting these influence operations, sabotage operations, and they are escalating. And we have Jake Sullivan sitting there, and Biden, trying to prevent nuclear war. It's like
Biden he doesn't know where he's sitting anymore. like Biden is sitting, okay?
Just being honest. I gotta tell you.
Listen, Biden, he doesn't know where he's sitting right now. Like he's just sitting. Okay, like let's just please not. Like I feel bad for him, because I feel like he's just like sitting it out. He's just like he's ready. He's ready to go have you know, a Disneyland vacation with Jill and the kids. Okay, like,
I'm so happy for him
yeah,
to do
I'm
that.
really
Yeah,
happy that he's not
he
running.
and Jimmy Carter can go down to Disney World and have a
Genuinely,
yeah, yeah,
like, I mean, he's yeah, like he's
yeah.
he's sitting, okay. Like, I'm sure he's just sitting there and he's like, who's Zelensky, you know? And like every single time Zelensky visits, like someone briefs him on like who it is. Like, genuinely. um I mean, a very nice grandpa, but like Jake Sullivan, realistically, is probably Biden is giving a 2 week notice vibe. Well,
What is since when has the White House turned into God's waiting room? Like I don't.
the White House has turned into like into a geriatric
Like
facility.
yeah, yeah. It's like the Senate. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah.
yeah,
You
the
got these
Senate as well.
dinosaurs. Yeah,
I like absolutely love listening to these people discussing like Facebook and modern tech. It's amazing. It's
yeah.
just
Oh
really,
yeah.
it's like the type of questions I would never think to ask because they're self-explanatory. But anyways, am I connected to Wi-Fi? So when I'm connected to Wi-Fi, is Facebook looking at my phone and my data, and is it looking at my phone? Anyways,
What's a
so
cookie?
yeah, what's a cookie? Like, is it chocolate chip? Um, but yeah, so but point is Biden, yeah, he's no longer sitting there with and like and thinking with Jake Sullivan. I think Jake Sullivan is sitting there and thinking and doing all of this and just tells Biden what to do. uh
It's just one thing about Jake Sullivan. His wife is. So I'm from New Hampshire. I grew up there. I live in Massachusetts now. I'm just doxing myself out here. And there are Jake Sullivan's wife is running for an open seat in New Hampshire. The incumbent Democratic representative for New Hampshire's second district, Annie Custer, is retiring.
mhm,
So Maggie Goodlander, Jake Sullivan's wife,
mhm,
is worth like $20 million. She like rented an apartment in like Nashua or something. Like
mhm,
they own a house in Portsmouth, which is right where I went to high school. Like I know Portsmouth very very well. They have this $2 million home. They're renovating their home while Jake is the national security advisor of the United States. I found it on the Portsmouth city website. Like,
oh, nice.
good. He has his priorities in order. But yeah, so Jake Sullivan, his wife will probably be, because she's running against a lunatic, the next representative from New Hampshire going to Congress. So just a fun little fact there.
Literally, Julian says, "Does the storm impact my cloud storage?" And I think it's the best joke about how the senators are very unaware of what the fuck is happening on the internet. Also, I like Mark's comment that says, "I think the White House is God's waiting room. In the wake of Citizens United, you now need an infinite amount of dollars to become known to voters and to become a feasible candidate." Well, actually, with social media, it's probably going to change. But interestingly, I remember how we found data that like there was $300 million given by Russia of only
Mm-hmm.
assets that we could trace to like meddle in foreign elections, and all the Americans were like, "That's nothing." It's like that is a lot of money to run with in Europe, babies. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of campaign money.
I know. I
But
see
also,
these little scandals in the UK. They're like, "Oh, someone gave £10,000," and I'm like, "Come on, you could do like 100 million. Like, what's the trade off?" Like,
mhm.
yeah. Citizens United has been so toxic, as well as the unregulated spread of propaganda and on social media and on TV as well. Just so corrosive to democracy.
You guys, so it's 1:40 a.m. I do have a 10 a.m. Like, what is it called? Makeup, and then 11 a.m. shoot tomorrow for, I think it's the brief. But I love this conversation, and so do you, it seems. Why don't I remove myself while I'm getting ready for bed, and Robbie talks to you and maybe answers. Robbie, do you see the questions over here? Do you see the
Yeah,
comments?
yeah,
Okay.
there are a lot of good ones. Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay.
I'm like word vomiting because this has been in my brain. This is very therapeutic.
Yeah, no, let's
Go get ready.
okay, let me remove myself and see if that's gonna like is it wait. No. Let me see if I can get you to be bigger. No, not me. You. No. Okay, what if I remove myself?
Okay, I think I'm still here. Um, so Cheryl, you made some really great points in the chat that abortion is on the ballot in Arizona. I think that will change. Again, it was the same situation as in Iowa, different demographics, but the same thing. The very, very conservative Supreme Court allowed a law from the 1800s to go into effect that effectively bans abortion. And I think it would be a mistake to underestimate what effect that will have on the election. Grumpy, yes, I do have a creditable link for the Wall Street Journal. I will send that to you. And South Dakota also has an abortion referendum. And Florida does as well. I might be missing a couple of states that have abortion on the ballot this year. Someone asked earlier about Ted Cruz, and I think that the I think that Colin Allred has run a fantastic campaign. I mean, Beyonce showed up for them, so I think there is a shot that Ted Cruz will lose. I don't know enough about Texas politics. There's a lot of voter suppression, but that is an interesting race to watch. Ted Cruz lost by about 3 points in 2018. Trump may carry him over the line this year. He may not. Texas has very different demographics than Iowa, but you do see these suburbs that used to be blood red. Now they are shifting rapidly blue. The problem in Texas is that you have a very large Latino population, and they have moved to the right. So you have these dueling demographic trends that are going on, but history is not necessarily predictive of future results. We have a completely different election environment than in 2018 and 2020 and even 2022. So I really don't think. I think there is a chance that Ted Cruz loses, and I think that would be fantastic for Ukraine. There was yes, 1864. Yep, that's when that abortion law was written into the. It was enacted before Arizona was even a state; it was a territory. So, all right. The another key difference this cycle is Democrats were not knocking on doors. They stayed home. They ran the election using mail vote, get out the vote operations by sending postcards to voters and by phone. They were not knocking on doors. This year, they have so many door knockers, and the Republicans have outsourced that to Elon Musk. When you have volunteers versus paid people to knock on doors and that are incentivized to knock on doors and try to make as many door knocks as possible, and they're tracking you and They might not pay you, and if you don't meet a quota, they won't pay for your travel expenses. There's a difference in persuasion and how effective you're going to be. So there is this ground game component that they call it that the Democrats, I think, have an advantage as well. I think that will make a big difference this year. The other thing that has happened is we're not only post Dobbs, but we're post January 6th, and people are reminded that this guy will not concede. He will not concede. The more the public sees of Trump, and going off script and talking about Hannibal Lecter and the garbage truck, and now there's this squirrel, the peanut squirrel thing. I don't even, it's crazy, and I think people are really tired of it. I think he's cooked. So we'll see what happens. Another very close race. There's very limited polling, so take this with a grain of salt. But there is an independent in Nebraska who is running against Senator Fisher, Deborah Fisher, longtime incumbent in that state. And she is obviously Republican, and he is this independent has distanced himself from the Democratic Party, I think very smartly. And so we may see enough people voting to make that a close race. I don't know enough because we just don't have enough data, but the little data we have shows that might be somewhat competitive. So there's another chance at the Senate. John Ralston, who has accurately predicted the results of every presidential election going back, oh my God, at least 2008, I believe, based on early voting data, is predicting Kamala to win, the incumbent Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen to win, and is also predicting all three Democratic incumbents to win for Congress. I'm very bullish, by the way, on the Democrats winning Congress. We've seen this in special elections. I think we're going to see this again this year. We'll take some seats back in New York, California, Iowa. Those states are in play. Nebraska's second district, represented by Don Bacon. I think he's done. So I think we will see a shift in the House composition, because we cannot have Speaker Mike Johnson in place. So, and that will also make it harder for them to, if the Republicans don't control the House and the Senate, that will make it harder for them to not certify the election results. So, because Congress is sworn in before the president is. So we'll see how that plays out. But I really think the House Democrats will win the majority again. All right. I'm waiting for Yulia to come back. I think I covered everything. John Ralston receiving death threats is not a surprise to me. That's not surprising to me at all. Yeah, I think I covered everything that I wanted to. There's a Maine is the only other state besides Nebraska to split their electoral college votes. So you have whoever wins the state wins both the votes that both senators will cast, or would cast, I should say. And then each congressional district allocates one electoral college vote to the winner of the presidential contest. And in Maine's 2nd district, that is the northern part of the state, it is one of the oldest, one of the whitest districts in the country. And it has demographics that are kind of similar to Iowa, but perhaps a little less educated, a little older. And it'll be interesting to see. A poll came out called Pine State Polling, showing Jared Golden, the incumbent Democrat, winning against a Trumpist candidate, and Trump only within 4 points. And this is a district that Trump won by 8 in 2020. So thoughts on age limits. So here actually, I have some thoughts on age limits. I'm not entirely sure mandatory retirement age is good. Term limits are actually bad, and let me explain why. So political scientists have researched this, and term limits actually increase corruption because you have a guaranteed revolving door. And then you have people who lose institutional knowledge. It is a job to be a politician and to make laws and to pass laws and to execute laws and to be a judge. You have to have experience doing this. If you don't have enough time in that job, you don't gain enough experience. So then you end up leaning on people who previously had that job, who can maybe buy access and then influence the outcome of legislation, executive actions, and the judiciary. The age limitation, I do think we should have probably something. I don't know what that is. Mandatory retirement ages can cut 2 ways. There are 90-year-olds that are super functional. There are 90-year-olds that are on their deathbeds or already dead. So it's so hard to make that blanket assumption. But in the term limits for the Supreme Court, this is something I agree with. I agree with it maybe in this way. The president should have guaranteed at least at 1 or 2 nominations and confirmations to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court should have a larger pool of justices, and they should be randomly selected and then rotate to eliminate this game that we now have of how do you stack the court with only Republicans. Well, when Antonin Scalia died, there was an opening, and Mitch McConnell blocked confirmation of Merrick Garland, who was proposed as a more moderate potential justice. And then when Trump won and the Republicans kept the Senate in 2016, that is when I believe it was it Gorsuch or Kavanaugh? I'm forgetting the order. That was confirmed. And then you have these strategic retirements. It is well documented that Samuel Alito and perhaps Clarence Thomas, they need Trump to win because they want to retire. Samuel Alito's wife is extremely conservative. She's a nut job. Also, Clarence Thomas his wife is a nut job, and they want a Republican to win. They have incentives for a Republican to win so that they can step down, and then they know a MAGA crazy right wing person will be ready to take their place and continue the 50+ year reign of conservative control on the Supreme Court. We definitely need stronger ethics laws, stronger disclosure laws, and reform on the Supreme Court. I don't know how long Yulia is going to be. Federal Reserve is just as powerful. I don't know. I don't yet. The Federal Reserve is very powerful, but it is politically insulated, and it should be that way. It really should be that way. There are a couple of things that control the economy. One is the Federal Reserve. They control the supply of money. And I won't get into the economics, but they are able to set interest rates to control and bring down inflation, control demand. But there's also another component to this, and that is Congress. That is fiscal policy, not monetary policy. So there are dueling. There can be, I should say, dueling priorities there. Some are pro-inflationary. You can have pro-inflationary fiscal policies. We actually see this in Russia, where they are just spending on non-productive, economically speaking, services, goods, and they're evading sanctions, and they're paying huge bonuses for people to sign up and go get killed in Ukraine. There's a huge labor shortage, and it is just killing their economy. And the central bank keeps raising interest rates to try to control demand, and they won't. They won't be able to do it because fiscal policy will win over monetary policy every single time. What I'm saying is, whatever the government decides, the government meaning in the United States context, Congress and the executive branch, that will always, if they do something extreme, override what the central bank, aka the Federal Reserve, can do. Although typically they work in concert, and the Federal Reserve is there as an independent actor to make sure the U.S. economy grows and to keep unemployment down and keep inflation down. Okay, the ability to abolish the Electoral College, that would take a constitutional amendment. I think it is a fantastic idea. I don't. There is something called the I'm forgetting the exact name of it, but the Interstate Voting Compact, and what it means is there are enough states that add up to 270 electoral college votes. That's how many you need to win. And we are about, I think, 3 states away, I believe, from enough states having joined that compact that say, okay, no matter who my state votes for, we are just going to vote for whoever wins the popular vote. And in that way, you can get around the Electoral College. With this Supreme Court, I don't think that will work. I think it's a very smart idea. But it's kind of this crazy system that we have that was set up in, as an experimental system in the late 1700s. And we also had like slavery in our Constitution, and also, they count as 1/5 of a person, and only landowners can vote. And so I think we have a lot of outdated things in the Constitution that we did away with, and this is one of them. The Senate is another. It's just, why does Vermont and why does Alaska, these tiny states where no one lives, why do they have 2 senators? Why do they have as much weight in the Senate as California and Texas? It doesn't make sense. It's not very representative. I understand the history of it, but the Senate is an institution that has been somewhat of a check and balance, because the House can be crazy. But for democracy, I don't think that it is a great idea, especially when they preserve a filibuster where you need 60 senators to change anything. You can get around some of that with fiscal policy, but not with anything substantive, like, say, codifying Roe, making abortion access legal across all 50 states and the territories. What is coming up tomorrow that I'm going to be watching for is a referendum in Puerto Rico on statehood. They are going to vote whether they want to join the United States as a state. And island politics are not like mainland politics. So you have Republicans and Democrats, but their policies don't necessarily translate into what on the same policies on the mainland. So that will be very interesting to watch. That is another great way to kind of readjust our democracy, where we have so many people living on that island as U.S. citizens that don't have the right to vote. Another is making D.C. a state. There are more people that live in D.C. than a couple of states, the Dakotas and and Vermont, and they don't have a right. They don't have a representative, a voting representative in Congress. They don't. And so I think they need to become a state as well. Yulia thinks that she doesn't know. She's very nervous. I think Harris will win. I sent her a very detailed outline of why I think Harris will win. But we are just refreshing. We're going to be watching this very closely tomorrow night, and hopefully we know tomorrow night, especially if we win North Carolina. Yeah, DC would have to get a new slogan if they became a state. Their slogan is "No taxation without representation," because it's true. Okay, you're listening. You're here. You feel free to let me know when I should drop off here. I might have to get going soon. President Andrew Jackson advocated for the abolition of the Electoral College in 1829. Yeah, it's been around for a long time. That the idea of this has been around for a long time. Okay, however long I want. I'm gonna wrap this up. If there are any last questions, I'll answer them. It is insane that so many lives. I did not appreciate this until I first traveled abroad after I graduated college, or university, as they say, and went to Korea and Japan. The amount of power that the United States has, both economically, militarily, if we choose to wield it, is enormous. And I did not realize how influential what it means to be a global hegemon. I understood we were a superpower, but I didn't quite understand what that meant in real terms. And then, Trump was president, and it really, really showed what that meant. For us to pull out of NATO, some of the crazy things he's thinking about is just insane. It's just insane. Harris has hinted on eliminating Electoral College. I mean, I don't think there are any gripes among Democrats about eliminating it, because a Republican has not won the popular vote since George W. Bush won in 2004 his re-election campaign by the skin of his teeth. So I don't think this idea that the electoral college is, you know, a great thing is representative of a true democracy. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, Harris does not have the power. She can propose it. It's not going to go anywhere. The Senate will block it. And to amend the United States Constitution is takes 2/3 of both houses, and then 3/4 of 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, and then it has to go to 3/4 of the states, and then that's how you get a and their legislatures have to ratify it by a majority. So it is a crazy on purpose, a very, very, very hard constitution to change. But what's so interesting is there's very little on the Supreme Court in the Constitution. It's almost like an afterthought. If you read the Constitution, there's very, very little about the Supreme Court. We could easily change the seats. We could easily add seats. We could take away seats. We could say, no, we want 5 justices again. And then the 4 previous justices who were most recently appointed have to resign. Like, there is nothing stopping Congress from doing that other than a political backlash and the filibuster. All right, I'm going to drop off. Thank you, Yulia. It was so good. This has been therapeutic for me. I feel less anxious. And I hope you all have a good night.